Welcome to this week's A Seat at the Table. I am your host, Holly Cotton, and today we're going to get into women in politics. So, before I start, let me introduce you guys to the fabulous women that will be joining us today. So, first, I have Miss Carvana Cloud, Democratic nominee for judge. Welcome, Carvana. And then I have Miss Ashley Mays Guice. She corrected me before. I still said it wrong. Ashley Mays Guice, Democratic nominee for judge as well. So welcome, Ashley.
For having me.
And then we have TaKasha Francis, Democratic nominee for judge as well. So thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
So before we go into all of the things that I want to talk about, because we definitely want to divulge into women in politics, let's start with something that just happened, the debate. So when we're all sitting at home or wherever we were, because I know we were all at debate parties as well, living it up. So after watching the debate, I would like to know each one of your opinions about how do you feel that Kamala Harris handled the debate overall? So let's start over here.
Well, as a former debater on the world-renowned Texas Southern University debate team, quite honestly, I was very pleased with her performance. She was poised, she was measured, she was prepared. And now, a lot of times people think about debates and, they think about pre-prepared questions, but there is still an element you can't always prepare for everything that you walk into. And her ability to speak extemporaneously, you could tell that these were not canned answers, but they were thoughtful. Her plan was clear, and I was very pleased, just looking at what is a part of our culture. Part of debate is not only policy, but theater. And the theater was absolutely present.
I love that. I love that. So, Carvana, I want to know your opinion. Again, let me just let everyone know that these are all judge nominees. These are all candidates that are running for judge. So we cannot be biased because obviously if you go and you have a case and you're pleading your case, you want to have an unbiased judge. So all of our opinions today are definitely not going to be either or, super hot, super cold. Everything has to be situational. So I know you guys can't be like, that's stupid, I don't want to do that. So we're not doing that today. But I wanted to ask you, whenever you're talking about your answer, about your opinion of how the debate was handled, do you feel that her approach aligned with the concerns of Black women while she was answering?
Oh, thank you for the question, Holly. I was very proud of her. As my sorority sister, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, as well as my soror Ashley here, I definitely think she spoke to the needs of Black women. She came out and she immediately started speaking about things that affected the middle class. She started talking about economics. She started talking about the things that we have to deal with every single day as Black women. She didn't skirt any questions. She was very direct, and she used language that everybody could understand. She didn't get up there and act like she was so pompous or pretentious. And that's possible, and people have done that in the past as presidential candidates. But she spoke to us in a way that we could understand, and not only understand but relate to. That's what I mean more so, that we could relate to, and that's critical as moms, as wives, and as aunties and grandmothers who are taking care of children and things of that nature. So I absolutely do think that she spoke to us, and I felt it. I think we all felt it, and just so absolutely proud.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Ashley. So also we're going to break it down one more. Now we have overall, we have specifically Black women. Now, what about marginalized communities? Do you feel that that she addressed that in the debate?
Absolutely, I do believe that she addressed marginalized communities and she did it in a very effective way. Number one, just being present and being herself as a member of marginalized communities and performing so well. I think that was, the first piece of her successful execution at the debate. Additionally, she did not shy away from what some may deem as controversial topics like Central Park 5, Charlottesville, things like that. And that is important in a candidate because you want to know that they are not afraid to go to bat for the hot button topics that some people may shy away from. So I definitely want to applaud her for attacking those things head on, because that lets members of those marginalized communities know that they in her have a voice.
I love that. I love that. Okay, great answer. Great. Of course, great answer for everyone. So I want to go into, because we started last episode where we're looking at social media and we're seeing, especially the younger voters who we're really trying to use this election because we know that they can define the outcome of this election. So we're looking at some of the viral social media reels that are going around, some of the content, the memes, and some of it can be a little misconstrued. And so we're, again, not biased, but what I wanted to ask you, we're going to start with you, TaKasha, before we go into the TikTok, because last week that was something that everyone enjoyed, where we showed a TikTok of someone that is a influencer and using their voice, and you're looking at 2 million views on one TikTok, and if you're saying something that's totally wrong or biased, then that's 2 million young voters that we're impacting. So let's start, before we go into that, reflecting on the debate. Do you feel that it was moderated fairly?
Absolutely. There were moments that I can recall that they may have veered away from some of their own rules in terms of the time limits. But I think both candidates had an opportunity to say whatever they felt they needed to say to the American people. And I wanted to actually piggyback on something you said about how social media is playing such a pivotal role in this election and bringing in young people. I'm excited by that. And the reason I'm excited by that is because every year there are at least 400,000 eligible 18-year-olds who can actually register to vote. And so at this point, if that's you that I'm talking to, I need you to register to vote. Now, misinformation is rampant on the internet, and we all understand that. So while it is unfortunate that there are people that may spew misinformation, every American, every citizen has the responsibility of doing their own due diligence to find out about the candidates and the issues. And so for those of you like myself, like most Americans who don't have time to do that research, you should look at the League of Women Voters right here in Houston. They produce a voter's guide. They do all the research. They bring all the candidates together in one place. It's digital. You can pick it up, a hard copy, and literally they do that research for you on candidates so that you can read about the candidates and make an informed decision. Looking at one TikTok and listening to one person's opinion is not going to get it in this election or any other. The other thing I want to point out is that we're here as local candidates, that this election is about more than the president. So while that is extremely important, we need everyone to not only register to vote, we need you to vote, and we need you to vote down ballot.
All
What
the way
that
to the
means
end.
is from the top
To the
to
bottom.
the bottom, from the rooter to the tutor. You need to go all the way down the ballot, because the closer you are to the bottom, the closer the people who are at the bottom of the ballot is not. These are not people that are less important. These are the people who make decisions about your life every day. That's 3 of us. So you come into a criminal court or a civil court, you're going to see us. You're not going to see Kamala Harris. You're not going to see Donald Trump. You'll see us. And so it's so important to get informed and not just use TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, or even just what you saw in the debate the other night. Please do your own research.
Okay, thank you. So TaKasha missed last episode. We did all the voting rights, but thank you.
Had to get that in there.
I had to get that in
We
there.
appreciate it. I had to get it in there because we're
Thank
going
you.
to the rooter to the tutor.
From the
Okay.
rooter to the
All right.
tutor. That's it.
So let's look at this TikTok, and then we're gonna move on, and we'll get your opinions about it as well.
So this is the reason why it seemed like Kamala Harris won the debate last night. Simply put, she had help. If you go back and watch the debate, they did not fact check her once. She lied multiple times. In addition to that, they never pressed her on anything. They asked her a question, she avoided it. They never pressed her. They gave Trump at least like 3 yes or no times. They pressed him multiple times on certain things. They didn't press her at all. Then they set up questions like this, for example. They'd say something like, well, you know, on January 6th, you did something and it was so terrible and it was bad and it was wrong and you waited hours and you did this wrong and you did that wrong. What is your response? That's how they would set up the question. He would answer, he would defend himself, and then they would look at Kamala Harris. Okay, Kamala Harris, what is your response to how terrible and evil Trump is and all the bad things he did? They were setting her up to not talk about policy, to specifically attack Trump. Because remember, the moderators are who control the direction of the debate. They specifically controlled it in a way that would benefit Kamala Harris. And a lot of people are saying she had the questions before. I don't think she had the questions before. There's a chance she did, sure. I think it's more of she had these pre-recorded lines that she was going to say no matter what the questions were. They would ask her the question, she'd weasel her way out of it, and then she would go into her rehearsed attack lines. So like I said, the reason it seems like she did so well is because she was never challenged. She had help virtually the entire debate. Many on the left won't acknowledge it. They'll say, oh, you're just coping. Oh, you're just a sore loser. Oh, that's fine. Let them have their moment. Let them have it. Again, they had to rig the setup to get the result they wanted. If there is another debate and Kamala Harris is not surrounded by friendlies and she actually is held to task for her past and the fact that she has been avoiding the press, the fact that she's been changing all her positions, the fact that she's not going into real detail about her policy plans and how she's actually going to make things happen, if she's actually held to account and actually has to answer questions like this, there'll likely be a different opinion of that debate compared to this one.
Okay, so I know that we are having an unbiased episode because we have judges here. And so we are not going to go into anything biased, but we're just going to address the specific points that he brought up in the TikTok, because these are the kinds of videos that are going viral right now with this type of opinion. And then also his reach is huge. So these are people who may not have even watched the debate that are now thinking this. So Carvana, let me just ask you, generally speaking, because he said numerous times about Kamala not being challenged. Do you feel that she was challenged in the debate?
Absolutely. And before I even start that, let me just say this. As Black women, that always comes up. The ceiling for us and the standard for us continues to be raised, and it's always going to be harder for us. So we weren't challenged. We weren't asked the right questions. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. She was challenged. First of all, she was prepared. Like TaKasha said earlier, she was prepared and she was challenged. She was challenged, and every time she was challenged, she knocked it out the park. And so I think that's frustrating for some people. But frustrating or not, it is what it is. And as Black candidates, even, we face that as well. Again, the standard, the bar is raised for us, that glass ceiling, because nobody ever wants us to crack it. And so you have even African American men. They're entitled to their opinions. Absolutely. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But was she challenged? Absolutely. There were no prearranged questions, or her team didn't get the questions ahead of time and things of that nature, like he mentioned, and things of that. That didn't happen. She knew what she was talking about. She prepared and she came out and knocked it out the park, period. As a Black woman. And that's what we do.
Okay. All right. I hear. And even as you were talking, I was just thinking about how everyone, even with President Obama, when you're talking about a Black man that's running for an office, that's in an office, everyone just kept saying, well, but it's not, like you said, breaking through the ceilings. Well, oh, but it wasn't hard enough, or it wasn't tough enough, or he didn't make a decision, or having this degree wasn't where, oh, okay. And then you get the next president in place who has none of those qualities. But anyway, we're unbiased. Okay, so Ashley, next to you. So when we're talking about the debate and we're talking about the topics that were discussed at the debate, there were a lot of sensational topics. Obviously, if you guys have seen anything on social media, those clips about the stealing pets, the eating pets. I saw the cutest little TikTok, and they had the lady, and she had two little chihuahuas, and she was putting they were in a roasting pan, and she put it, and she was Hispanic, and she was like, I guess I'm eating my pets today.
And
it was
American
just,
people are so unserious.
Yeah, so unserious, so unserious. But there were a lot of these types of topics. So do you think that we actually in the debate covered some of the matters that people actually care about? Do you believe that there were a lot of the issues that people actually have concerns about that were covered in the debate?
They were. And unfortunately, in this age of sensationalism, the sound bites and news and everyone focuses on the pets and, all of the unconventional things that were said during the debate. However, what people have to remember is not only were important policies covered and plans um, and all of these things we expect to hear from our candidates, but you also have to check a person's demeanor, their ability to respond to questions. I mean, this is the president of the United States. How do you maintain under pressure? Do you get carried away with your emotions? Are you able to be even keel, stayed, and composed at times of adversity? So, although this might not have to do with the price of groceries, it might not have to do with oil and gas or any of these other important things that we wanted to hear about, we got valuable information just seeing how each candidate responded to questions or statements that they might not necessarily like. So I think everything was covered. Well, not everything, but lots of important issues.
Right, right. And going into that, you mentioned something as well. And I know Carvana and I were having a discussion before, and we were saying about the issue of fracking, because I think that a lot of the people that were watching, because they were very adamant about fracking and fracking, and people are Googling what is fracking because no one even knows what fracking is. Why is this something that's even being talked about at a debate? So, Carvana, can you explain just in the lamest terms, like what is fracking and why is that something that's even being talked about?
Sure. Well, it was so interesting because my daughter asked me when we were watching the debate together. She said, "Mom, what is fracking?" And so I looked it up, and here's the best way to describe it. It's like if you had a very hard cookie and there were chocolate chips inside of that cookie and you wanted the chocolate, you would try to do everything you could to break that cookie to get those chocolate chips outside of that cookie. Oil and gas comes out from the side of subterraneous mountains and things of that nature, and people are able to work, and that there so fracking creates jobs, fracking creates opportunities and things of that nature. But that's what it is. It's boring holes into the sides of mountains, and again, to be able to get liquid and gas and things of that out from those areas. There are some issues, though, with fracking. As it relates to the environment, as it relates to the water that people drink that are in the area where fracking takes place, but the opportunities that it provides to the community for work and things like that are very, very, very important.
And I think that that's also a key point because you have to look at it from both perspectives, because especially in those desolate areas, those very rural areas, that's all they have. My dad did it, my grandfather did it. We're miners, we're cowboys. Like everyone, depending on where they are geographically, have some type of family history in what they're doing. I'm from Louisiana, so I come from a family of hunting and fishing. So if someone's coming in and they're like, you know what, we're about to stop fishing, we're going to put a fishing ban. A lot of the people that are my family are going to be like, what?
Right.
What do you mean? We've been doing that all
Right.
together. So
Right.
thank you for breaking that down. Because one, I know a lot of people were wondering, how does this even relate to me? Why are they even talking about it?
And she was so adamant
Yeah,
about it.
she was.
And
She
was so
was.
adamant about it. And so that's what made me look into it a little
Right.
bit more, because obviously, when you have someone like Vice President Harris take such a hard stand on a policy or a particular issue,
hmm
you want to know more about it. And like we all said earlier, don't just get caught up with what is on social media.
hmm
Like TaKasha said, do your research.
hmm
This is going to be the president of the United States of
hmm
America. One social media post or whatever your girlfriend or your boy tells you in the beauty salon or the hair salon or the barbershop, that's not enough. You need to do
hmm
your own research and find that out.
I love
Absolutely.
that. So circling back to you, Miss TSU debater, um, because again, I think whenever you are great at debating, it allows you to see both sides
Sure.
of each person. And like you said, having an unbiased opinion is very important. So when we're talking about leadership styles, and so as we've talked about thus far, Ashley brought up the point of looking at how someone can handle being
Yeah.
under pressure and in the hot seat. So when comparing Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, what stands out to you the most about their leadership styles?
One of the things that I noticed was, and that is the same thing we have to employ as jurists,
Mm-hmm.
is the ability to be measured
Mm-hmm.
and out of our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, we hear all the time about, hey, they're in their feelings, they're in their feelings, they're in their feelings. There was a lot that happened that evening that would easily put someone in their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that, and I think that's for any leader. Everybody has their idea of leadership. Effective leaders understand how to read a room.
Mm-hmm.
Effective leaders have emotional intelligence where they can survey the situation and act accordingly. And effective leaders do understand that you don't have to be emotionless, but your emotions have to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because when you operate in your emotions, you will most invariably make some decisions that you might have to walk back.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing that I think is also important for people to think about as you are voting down ballot, because we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I'm a shameless plug, a lot of times people overlook the roles we're running for
Mm-hmm.
because they don't think about us until you have to walk into a
Oh,
courtroom.
for sure.
Okay. And
That's
and
good.
so I think what's important looking at this debate, looking at this election, are principles that I gotta lift here. The truth matters.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That is our job as judges to look at the facts,
Mm-hmm.
apply the facts to the law, not what I think, what I feel, what you're putting in front of me is what I
Mhm.
have to look at.
Right.
So voters need to look at what the candidates are putting in front of you, the facts.
Right.
Apply that to the law. As judges, that's what we do. We apply those facts to whatever relevant law. So as voters, you apply the facts of that candidate to the relevant law. Which are your values? What do you value? What's
Mhm.
important to you? What do you want to see for your family? And then you make a decision. And for us is a ruling. For you, that's a vote.
Right.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because whenever you're talking about the local leaders, like you said, I'm walking in the courtroom and guess what? There isn't a fact checker in that courtroom that's
Mhm.
calling you out like they did at the debate. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
whoever is up there, they are the entity that is about to decide
That's right.
your fate. So there's no one saying, actually, that's not right. Actually, you shouldn't do that. So very important, very important. Thank you very much for bringing that up. So now that we're talking about this, because now we can talk about leadership styles. Thank you so much for segue into my next question. Teamwork right here.
Welcome, you're welcome.
So whenever we're talking about the temperament of women, a lot of times it can be challenged because people are expecting you, and I'll say it because I'm not running for judge, so I can be totally biased. But I'm going to say, like, you cannot have a temper tantrum on national TV and you can't just spew out whatever you want as a woman. It's very challenging. Everything that I say, okay, so her as a minority woman, she's saying this, or this is why we can't have a woman in politics because here she goes with the attitude, oh, it must be that time of the month, or it must be hormonal, or everything has to do with downplaying us as women.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we made that decision. So I can only imagine that times 8 million for Kamala. So whenever we're talking about that, Ashley, I'm going to come to you. So we're talking about Black women in politics. As a woman running for office, what motivated you to step into politics? And what are some of the unique challenges that you have since that you face since you're in this position?
So it's interesting the way you worded that, stepping into politics. Um, becoming a judge is kind of necessarily married to politics. So I, originally wasn't even thinking about stepping into politics. I was previously appointed to the bench. I served as judge. I absolutely loved serving in that role. And so I'm running to serve in that role again. So it was more so a necessary end to a means, or necessary means to an end, which is continuing to serve the citizens of Harris County in a judicial role. So I knew that the territory that comes with it is getting out there more and playing the political game and things like that. And I'm sorry, tell me the second part of your question
And the
again.
second question, well, I know it's very lengthy. Thank you to my questionnaire person who gave me these elaborate questions that I too have to read off of the card. As a Black woman running for office, what motivates you to step into politics, and then how do you navigate the challenges you face, such as the bias, or have you had any bias or challenges?
So, number one rule is I have to be myself. And so sometimes I'm on and sometimes I'm not. And these ladies, I travel around Harris County with them for the past year, and I'm sure they've seen that and can attest to that. But you have to learn how to be comfortable in who you are and just be who you are, because it can get frustrating trying to live up to other people's expectation of what a woman is supposed to be, what a Black woman is supposed to be. And I can say earlier in my career, I remember being in trial as a young prosecutor and going back and talking to a judge and her being like, "You okay?" And essentially, she had watched me in trial dim my light because I was afraid that, if I came out of the box in the way that I wanted to, I was afraid of how a jury would perceive me. So that's a journey that I believe each Black female in the law must take, is figuring out how to be your best self, but also be measured in how you're received, or how you act in front of an audience, because as TaKasha said, a lot of it is theater, especially when you're a litigator. And so I would say that I have faced challenges when I was a younger attorney, because I was trying to find that middle ground of who I wanted to be and what my style was and things like that. But thankfully, now I'm at a point where I'm successful in my career and I just am who I am. You can take it or leave it. But that comes with time. And, circling back to Vice President Harris, I know that had to be tough, because if we think back to that moment where she had to take that pause, the pause heard around the world, we've had those moments. At some point in your career, you've invariably had that moment where you've wanted to react one way because you're being treated differently because you're a Black woman, but you bite your lip, you give them a politically correct answer, and you move on, showing them exactly why it is you're in that space and that you deserve to be in that space.
And can I just add something to that, Ashley, that you made me think about? One of the things, when I first met Ashley, what I was struck by was her beautiful natural hair and her glasses. She does not come across in terms of, what we understood going to law school, right?
Yeah.
Straight hair, traditionally accepted glasses or whatever. And the fact that we as Black women have to think about how we show up who we are naturally, that's her hair growing out of her head. That is the way it looks. So even from natural hair, I'm looking at my sister Carvana here with her bundles as they flow on the camera.
Yes.
But that is a part of who we are. Her being able to, wear her hair or her extensions the way she wants to wear them. And it made me think about how, as Black women and Black people, but we're talking about Black women today. My name is TaKasha. It is an African name, okay, that my father specifically chose because he wanted me to have a profound understanding of who I was in the world. It means little princess. I was his little princess. And so when you have a different name like a TaKasha, a Katanji, our first Black Supreme Court Justice, my soror, who is a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. If you look at Kamala,
I was just about to say Kamala.
And it's Kamala.
And it is Kamala. Not Kamala.
Right.
Those are the microaggressions that we have to deal with every single day. And the
Mhm.
fact that I believe that even, Ashley has been a judge, Carvana and I are moving towards that space and will do that, even donning the black robe, even
Mhm.
running for president, even looking at, the predecessor to the White House, Barack Hussein Obama. Those things, being able to show up who we are authentically is
Mhm.
always the challenge.
Mhm.
Always the challenge. And so, as you mentioned before, the pause heard around the world,
Yeah.
we do that at least 3 or 4 times a day.
Mhm.
If we're
Yeah.
just being honest.
Right.
Right.
And
You
it's
know?
so funny you mentioned that because earlier in my career, I would have never worn my natural hair.
And
Never.
I know you're not lying. I know you're not lying
But
because y'all know my hair will change
Mhm.
in a minute. And it's one of those things. Even when I was on the debate team, my former debate coach, God rest his soul, Dr. Thomas Freeman, he and I used to fight about my hair
Mhm.
because I love being able to wear my hair the way I wanted. And he made me put on the ugliest wig on one competition. I got my hair braided over the break,
Mhm.
and he told me I could not get on the plane with those ropes. He called
Mhm.
them ropes.
okay.
Oh,
And one of my
wow.
debate team members had a wig, and she said, "You can wear my wig," and I had to wear that horrible, ugly wig, and it was so infuriating for me because I'm like, why can't I show up the way I want? Especially now since the debate team, they got
Mhm.
braids, locks, micro, whatever. They're doing whatever. But I remember talking to him thereafter, and he said, I didn't want the focus to be on your hair.
Mhm.
I wanted them to see you.
You. Right.
Mm.
And I understood, intellectually what he was saying, but I can't help but think to myself, why should that matter?
Why should it matter?
Sure. Sure.
Well, and then that also just goes to show, as we're talking here, hopefully we, are able to reach a large demographic, but that just shows how all the different color ranges, all the different shades of Black women, all the different multicultural women, even though she has a Caucasian husband, even though she's half Indian, guess what? She's still looked at as a Black woman, and everything that she does is judged as a Black woman.
Yes.
And so no matter what it is, no matter the color, the texture of your hair, whether, like you said, it's natural or whether it's bundles or whether it's Creole, whatever it is,
Yeah.
they don't care. We gonna walk in, they're already like, she's an angry Black woman.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you for breaking
May I
that down.
speak to the political bias piece just for a minute,
Yes, go
please? Let me
ahead.
talk about that. I ran for district attorney in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost that race.
Mhm.
And I was having lunch with a white female, and she's a real good friend of mine. Well, at the time, I thought she was a real good friend of mine, and she looked at me and she asked me, "Why did you pick a position that was so high? Why did you pick a position that was so powerful and so high as your first position?" And I said, "Would you ask a white man that?
Right. They going straight for CEO.
Would you ask, why are you asking me that?"
Mhm.
And I tell you, I did watch my
I
temperament.
was gonna say, did you do the pause?
I did pause.
Look,
I did.
we'll do the pause, but we don't do the face.
But she could see all over my face, and lunch
Mhm.
was over.
Right.
Lunch was over before
Right.
it even started. But I
Mhm.
couldn't believe she was literally but she asked what she felt in her heart.
Mhm.
And I said, "Wow, may not be my friend."
Right.
And so we face that type of bias
Mhm.
every single day. And sometimes we don't, you're not expecting it. You just walk into it. And you
Mhm.
have to be ready for it. We always have to be ready for it because ultimately folks are always going to challenge us when
Mhm.
we say we want something greater. We want to
Mhm.
lead. We want to be in the front. We want to make sure we make a difference in this world. As a Black woman, you're going to be challenged about that.
Mhm.
And so I look forward to being a judge, a neutral arbiter who will be able to listen to the facts, apply the law, and not judge people like I've been judged
Mhm.
throughout my political career.
Absolutely.
Because it ain't over.
Right.
So she can
Absolutely.
keep looking for me to start for something lower and lower and
Right.
lower, but she gonna keep looking.
Right.
Okay.
She'll keep looking up.
She'll keep
Yeah,
looking
keep
up.
looking up.
She
Okay.
better.
That's
Yes,
right.
we just needed to add that
So thank you very
make
much.
sure you hear that.
Don't believe me, just watch.
Thank you. Okay. So, all right. So, last question that I have, because I definitely want to talk about the impact of, as you have said several times now, Carvana, about the sorority. And
Yes,
so,
yes.
Takash, they keep throwing y'all, trying to pretend that the Deltas ain't in here running stuff either. But
I
it's
mean,
We
okay.
love her too.
Oh, we
no.
love
Okay,
her.
okay,
We
okay.
love
But
And
y'all
you know,
want to give a
but
platform
I got you.
too.
But no,
Okay.
I got. Oh, but our platform is set. It is set, and I think Mr. Trump understood. I saw on TikTok earlier today, all of the national presidents of the Divine Nine sororities got together and helped him understand ain't no partying going on over
Right.
No,
here.
ma'am.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
so
sir.
and I think that's what people need to understand. Black women are not to be played with.
Right.
That's
We are the
exactly right.
most educated group of people in this country.
Right.
We
Right.
drive voter turnout. We
Mhm.
show up and vote in the highest numbers. It
Mhm.
makes sense that Black women are running for offices. Why? Because we always led. We just have now gotten to the point where we're not leading from behind anymore.
Right.
That part.
We're not pushing other people because we realize what we have in ourselves to bring to the table. So why would I invest my time, my energy, my talent, my skills, my abilities to put behind you when I'm literally the power behind you and I can
Right.
do this?
Right.
Preach.
Yeah.
And so I
Okay.
think people need to understand that it's no party now. We can.
Mhm.
But when it comes down to the work, we're balanced that way. We
Mhm.
understand the partying and the work. But when it comes down to our sororities, all four of them, Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rho, Alpha Kappa Alpha, and certainly Delta Sigma
Right.
Theta Sorority Incorporated,
Certainly.
ain't nobody playing in those organizations. Our
That's right.
founders weren't playing,
Mhm.
and their progeny is not playing either.
Okay. All right. Okay. So again, thank you for segueing into my question about the divine not. But she's reading my cards. That's what
I'm
it is.
really
That's
not.
what it
I'm
is.
really
She's just
not.
that good.
She really is
It's
just
I'm
that
She's
really
just
good.
that good.
not.
We're vibing over here. It's the
Vibing. And
energy.
you said you're from Louisiana
Yes.
too. That's where my people are from.
Oh, so
you got to pray for
that's
them.
what it
There
was.
you go.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. Okay, so Ashley, we're going to come to you as closing out the last question. So, when we're talking about sisterhood and resilience, the Divine Nine emphasizes sisterhood and community. So, how do you think that this support system can help you navigate the complexities of running for an office as a Black woman?
The work is heavy, but it feels so much lighter. To be a part of such an illustrious, accomplished, hardworking, driven group of women,
Yeah.
when you give us a goal, move out of the
Mhm.
way. And so and that goes across the board.
That's right.
Because it's not just, the ladies in pink and green helping me. Just as TaKasha just went through all of the 4 beautiful sororities in the Divine Nine, all of these women come together and they get the work done.
Mhm.
And so it is a comfort and a blessing to know that, I can call up my sister and I am
Yes.
absolutely sure and certain that there are 100 women out there, 100 plus women who are on the move, making sure that whatever I need is getting done. And just this veers off from your question, but that is something that I'm so excited about the United States of America learning.
Mhm.
It was referred to as a sorority party, but over the course of the future, they are going to come to understand they're not like us. I mean, there are other
Mhm.
sororities out there, and that might be your commitment while you're in your undergraduate days. We make
That's right.
commitments for life.
Life.
And they are going to learn that lesson up close and personal. And I'm just very excited about that.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Well, thank you for again, because not everyone is in part of the Divine Nine.
Sure.
So,
Mhm.
but for all of the majority of people that are, I wanted to make sure that we address that as well, because I know a lot of times the people, especially whenever you're like the white women that raise money for
Mhm.
for Kamala,
Right.
and they're like, "What is this AKA?" And then I actually saw a reel that went viral on TikTok, and it was a white lady, and she said, "Okay,
She
these
broke it down.
these are for my white people who love Kamala, but let me explain to you,
Yes.
we are not allowed to
We are not
make
allowed to.
gestures. We're not allowed
Mhm.
to make the noises. You will hear them make noises. You are not allowed to emulate
I
the
was
noise.
so appreciative
Oh my
of that.
gosh, it was
She laid it out.
hilarious. It was hilarious.
And I think that it shows, as Ashley said before, the Divine Nine, all of our organizations at this point have been here for over a century.
Mhm.
And so it's highlighted only because the work we do every day, people take for granted because that's what it is. We're behind the scenes. And we don't just run out and say Deltas are doing this all the time.
Right.
And AKAs are doing this, and Sigma Gamma Rho is doing this, or even any of the Divine Nine. But it's not to even separate us, because even as you were talking, the sorority that is Black women.
Yep.
I mean, that sister, and what I mean by that sisterhood. So the fact that, Kamala Harris is a part of the Divine Nine and Alpha Kappa Alpha is a standout. But just looking at how Black women have come together behind her and inspired not just other women, other men, other organizations. That call with Black women that kicked off the moment Joe Biden
Right.
endorsed her,
Yes.
that night I was brought to tears.
Absolutely.
Because Black women, when we come together and we influence change, we influence culture. That's why I said before, it makes sense for Black women to run for office, because we're making those changes anyway. Some of y'all just gonna have to get used to seeing us being at the front.
Okay, all right. And so thank you. So that is, we're going to drop the mic on that, because that ain't nothing else that needs to be said. So thank you so much to all of our panelists today thank you to all of our panelists today for the conversation, because obviously we brought out a lot of powerful insights, and it underscores the importance of Black women shaping the political avenue. So thank you so much for continuing to break stereotypes, and thank you guys for redefining women in politics, and of course having a seat at the table.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you for amplifying the message.
And whoever's watching, your seat's waiting.